Hey, people. What's up? This your boy, Humble Dad. Welcome back to another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. We got some special guests with us. It's going to be a great show. We're talking about, can women make dads or fathers better? That's going to be the topic of the day. But before we get started, let's talk to the people and see who we got here on the stage. Number one, coming to the stage, Mr. King Rio. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, HD. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. You know, I always appreciate rocking with you, man. Whether it's Monday or Tuesday, you did.
Absolutely, same. Likewise.
So tell us, what's your dream vacation?
Man, I don't even have a specific location. I do like resorts. I like waking up, not having to think about too much. Walking over to breakfast. Walk over to the beach. Walk over to have a few drinks. You know what I mean? Take a nap randomly. You know what I mean? Things that we just don't get a chance to, enjoy in a regular day to day. I'm pretty simple.
That's a bet. So are you taking that drink in the morning? Because that's
Every hour is shot o'clock if I can help it. You know
that's
what
a
I
bet.
mean?
That's a bet. That's a bet. Welcome to the stage, none other than Miss Shay. What's up, Miss Shay?
Hey, thanks so much. My dream vacation
Yes.
is Tanzania. So I would like to visit some national parks there, and then of course visit Zanzibar and go to the beach and just relax and indulge.
That's a bet. Hey, listen, I'm surprised you hadn't already went, but hey.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Yeah, I'm saying, but what did I say? I'm surprised that it hasn't already happened. I mean, you got the frequent flyer miles. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I like to visit other places, but it's coming. It's coming at the right time. I want to take my son too, so I have to plan it out well.
That's a bet. All right. None other than Mr. Dwayne, my photographer, NDFW Jones. What's going on, youngster?
Man, living the dream, man. Living the dream.
You always say that, but it always seems sarcastic.
Well, you know what? Speak it into existence. How about
that? What's up? What's your dream vacation?
Dream vacation for me, man, to be honest with you, any vacation, any time off. If it's a staycation, vacation, just as long as I have some time off, I'll take it. I will take it and make the best of it. Guaranteed.
That's a bet. That's a bet. All right, then we have a new special guest coming to the stage, Miss Nee Lewis. How you doing, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that you was able to make it. Fill out our roster this evening. Absolutely. So, can you tell us, what is your dream vacation?
I don't know that I have just one particular dream, but I kind of want to piggyback off King Rio. For me, it's just being able to decompress from all of life's hustle and bustle. And I really don't, I'm really not particular about where that is. It could be in my house as long as I got peace and quiet. I'm not married to a schedule or the responsibilities of motherhood and wifehood and, just being able to be free. But right now, my spirit is saying mountains, snow, cabins, seclusion. That's what I'm feeling right now.
That's a bet. You know what I'm saying? I would say my dream vacation is anywhere outside of the United States. I lived in India for 6 months, for those that don't know. And I got to go on vacation to a place called Goa. And I didn't know that I would enjoy it so much that I would want to go back where I had to do work. But as far as I'd say I would want to go outside of the United States, because the culture in other places is just that much different. And that's what I would want to do. I want to go by myself, with my lady, with my kids. It don't really matter. You know what I'm saying? As long as I can get there. All right. So here we go. Y'all ready for the first question?
Let's do it.
Let's see. Dad should not be made to pay child support. Dad should not be made to pay child support. I see you pulling on your ear, Dwayne.
Man, that's a tough one.
That's the reason why I asked the question.
I noted. Noted. Hey, notice I didn't raise my hand. I just my ear.
Yeah.
Should dad pay child support? Yes. Do I see it as a positive? I don't know, because I say that's a cheap way out. That's honestly the cheap way out. If if a guy could pay, just pay the woman to take care of the kid, that's a cheap way out, because the time is more of the commodity than the money itself. So that's the cheap way out. Vice versa,
What do you mean, vice versa?
because women pay child support too.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm just trolling.
Oh, okay.
I know that's okay. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Chat. You was about to say something?
I was just gonna say, dads should be made to pay child support through the state. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but I do agree that some type of payment for the child should be made. Now, I'm not saying that it should be, and I'll admit it's probably coming from an unbiased perspective. My son's father doesn't pay child support per se, like he's not on an agreement with the state. However, whatever I tell him our son needs, he automatically sends the funds. So it was pink day at school on Friday. My son had to get a new pink outfit because we don't have pink in the closet. We just don't. So that came with shirts and shoes and all of the swag stuff that he wanted to get. And okay, I'll do that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's a small delay.
Oh, okay. I'll come back out and come back in.
Yeah.
But
Finish
when
your
he
thought.
said, okay, I like the outfit, I sent him a picture on Pink Day and was like, hey, this is what the boy got. He's like, are there some new shoes? I said, yeah, we picked them up yesterday. He's like, okay, how much was the stuff? And then he sent me the money for it. So it's not like he's on this every month type thing where he has to contribute this amount. But there is an expectation that whether it's for sports, his living, whether it's for food, whatever, vacation, he just send it. And so I think he should send it because we are Vincent is with me most of the time, right? And so when he's with him, I don't send it because he with him for 3 months. So it's different in time period, right? But I do think whoever the parent is who has the child the most should be made to pay some type of support for the child. That's my sense. Now I'm gonna go ahead and come back in.
I bet. Right. Nee or King Rio, what's your take?
I think it's case by case basis. If you are taking care of your child and you can show evidence that you are doing such, in the event that you don't have a shared custody agreement, then you should not have to pay child support. However, if you are completely disregarding your responsibility to the child, obviously something has to take place. I don't think that you get to just walk away, from your duties to your children. That would be an insult for those of us who are actively parenting. And we can go down a whole lane as far as that's concerned. I don't think it's a matter of gender. This goes for men, this goes for women, this goes for whoever. The court system should only have to get involved is if you actually just refuse. You refuse. I will not be a part of this child's life. I will not pay, for any expenses involving the child. I will pretend like this child is. If that's who you are, then hey, man, what do you expect to happen? What exactly do you expect to happen? Right? And we as adults don't get a chance to escape responsibility. And if you're unsure about whether or not the child is yours, and you get that paternity test. You know what I mean? But we got to be mature about these kind of things. But if we can avoid the court system, I'm for that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a follow-up question, but I'll let Nee go.
I kind of share the sentiments of the previous panelist. I actually get to see both sides of it. My husband and the mother of his daughter, my bonus baby, they do not have a formal court agreement. It's kind of like Shay's situation. Whatever whatever baby girl needs, they just split everything in half. She's with us, 3 or 4 nights a week. Her mother's a nurse, so depending on her schedule, we stand in the gap. When she needs downtime, we gladly take her on. It's a responsibility that we share. I have 2 children from a previous relationship, and their father is just completely inactive. He's been given the opportunity to we have split custody down the middle. He does not pick up on holidays. He does not call on birthdays. So I feel like those type of people, to kind of King Rio's point, who just decide they're going to absolve themselves from responsibility of this children. I think that's who child support is designed for. Child support is designed to force people who think they have an option to walk away from these children and not be accountable for anything. I think it's there to force them to support. The quality of life your child has when there's 2 incomes is vastly different than the quality of life your child has when there's just one parent. And then, yes, we appreciate the funds because we know children can be very expensive. But if that's all you can give, like if you don't have any value to add to your children from a mental, emotional perspective, from being able to, actually invest and pour in them character and morals, and that, I mean, if that's all you got is $1, then I'll take that, because that's something compared to nothing, which is what you're, you know, choosing to do. So that's kind of my point. And I also agree with King Rio. It goes both ways. I see a lot of fathers that are stepping up, carrying the weight. Moms are out living their best life, being free, self-caring, and these children are going without, or grandparents and aunts and uncles stepping in to raise children who are being neglected. So to me, support is for any parent who thinks they don't have to take responsibility.
Okay.
I guess that is good, that it is a method of holding them accountable, even if they don't want to, right? Because I remember when we first started out, when we initially got divorced, it was nothing. It wasn't the way it is now. And I never even stressed about it because I was like, I'm not dealing with you. You know, you got a kid over here. So either you're going to do it or you're not. And so I didn't hold him accountable to that point. I'm glad we are at this point in life now where he's like, okay, here it is, you know, and we have that, we built that relationship where it's trust on both ends, that everything is being taken care of. But I do agree that it does give them some accountability. Like you can't just have a child and walk away.
You know, I have a question for the panel. When we talked about filling in the gaps, right? And even when we talk about non-monetary things. So those of us who either have small children or who have had small children, we're headed into cold and flu season, right? And then when you have kids in school, they start to pass germs around and various things like that.
Indeed.
You think about just even taking care of a child at home during those times. Oftentimes, that's like a teamwork thing. You know what I mean? Somebody got to run to the store to grab some medicine, grab some tea, some honey, various things. Even if you don't live in the same household, being able to call that other person and say, hey, can you pick up X, Y, and Z? I'm here nursing the kid. And if it's multiple, sometimes they all get sick at the same, passing germs around the kids. You know what I mean? Some of those things are just like, listen, you gotta be there to work with that other person, or at least available, you know what I mean, to that other person in times where it would just be rough. Imagine, if you don't have that person, all right, got to load all y'all in the car, sick and all, you know what I mean? Like, these are the things that, you can't even really put a dollar amount on sometimes. You know what I mean? It's just part of your role, your responsibility. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
yeah, so there's a lot of things, that we can think about why people making an effort to be there just for their kids, period, I think is very important.
Yeah,
That's
I just
what.
think it's a
Yeah.
holistic thing. Money and time. It's not one without the other, one more than the other, one less. I think they're equally as important and needed.
Mm. You know, I'm sitting here thinking of I I'm lacking because I don't even know where the history of child support began. Like, where did that even start? Like, when did the government have to insert itself in order to make men and women responsible for taking care of their responsibility? Like, I'm wondering. I appreciate this that question because now I'm curious. How did that all start? Because yeah, that's an interesting thing to think about for me.
Well,
Absolutely.
a quick look up. It looks like 1975.
Hmm. Eh,
When did welfare and that kind of stuff take? What time? That was around that time frame.
Probably a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
it
So the
says
government
this is
sees all
from
these women coming and getting resources and help. Where are
yeah,
all these fathers?
yeah,
Where these babies?
yeah.
Okay, we can have a way to recoup our money, right? Because I don't. If for anybody on the panel who's not on child support, when you are on child support, at least in Texas, every year they take a portion of your money, and it's like almost a fee for them collecting the child support. Also,
Mm,
anything that is being paid to you, your arrears, is all being calculated. Interest is being added. It is also a form of income for the state. The state is
okay.
vested in recouping the money that they're giving the single mother for Medicaid, for food stamps, for TANF benefits. Um, they're trying to recoup their cost. So it's almost like it's a form of debt. It's a form of debt collection, and debt collection is monetized. It brings profit.
Okay.
So you mean to say they they plant the seeds to remove the dads, then they charge you for
Absolutely,
the dads.
absolutely,
connect them dots.
Okay.
absolutely.
See, I understood that part, but as for the child support, I didn't understand that part. So,
Yeah,
okay.
Okay, let me
yeah.
rephrase. Okay, so I'm gonna put the link in the back so y'all can have the information that I have. It says it's now this I said 1975, but looking at the timeline, it goes back to Van Valkenburg in New York. A parent is under a natural obligation to furnish necessaries for his infant children. So, and that was in 1858.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. And then it transitions to um, coming into, I guess, child support or so part of Social Security and then child support. So 1858 looks like the time frame when the government kind of took over. Okay. I'm sorry. So for the people that are watching, the risk is not from being in the club. Okay. I went to the fair. Right? For those that may be wondering. So it's pretty good. So I wanted to go back to what King Rio said. He was talking about, the mandate is for those that are kind of irresponsible. I think, and Nee was saying the same thing. So this was a conversation that I think we had on King Talk or somewhere else. Can't remember. Or I just had it with different people. Should women then be made to just automatically give um, a DNA test?
Like, should DNA tests be mandatory?
Yes, that's the question.
I absolutely believe in that. I think all DNA tests should be mandatory. I think if you're married, that's the only way you can opt out. Um, if you're married at the time of conception, at the time of birth. Other than that, I think men should have the right to be just as sure as women are that a child is theirs. There's just far too many instances where a woman can go say, I was with this man, we had this baby, I need child support, and just awful scenarios. Men have gone to jail because of arrears for child support, only to find out they were not the father of this child. Also, I don't know if you've ever seen the heartbreak of a man, loving a child and thinking it's his. to find out that the woman he loved or cared for at that time wasn't who she said she was, and this child is not theirs. I think if everybody's being honest, I don't understand why women feel so offended at the idea of certainty. If you're operating in integrity and you're doing the right thing and you're being honest, what is the harm in taking a blood? Like, let's just get it understood. Nobody should leave the hospital wondering. It just should be automatic. You're not married, blood test immediately. Like, we just go. So we're already, that's already out of the way. And then if anything needs to happen from there as far as custody or support, everything's documented, everything's in the system. Nobody even has time to start playing these games. It keeps everybody honest. Move with integrity, with who you're laying with who you say you are. And nobody should be up in arms about that. That's just my opinion though. But
bingo. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That's all I can say. I don't even need to follow that up. That's 100% accurate. I'm in full agreement.
I agree. The only thing is, married or not, still get the blood test. Because
I agree. I agree with that as well. Just do it, period.
Man, this is crazy. Okay, the reason why it's crazy because I don't know. I've heard of women agreeing with you two. I think I don't know if maybe it was on a Thursday night show, King Rio. Maybe that may have been the issue, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't a Monday night.
No,
we're not agreeable by Thursday.
No.
We didn't been through too much of the work week.
Let me bring it up to speed, Miss Nee. Me and King Rio on a show on the Lapeef Network called King Talk.
Oh, okay.
Lapeef has probably like 10 different shows. I think King
Really?
Rio will be on another show as well.
Okay.
But the Thursday night show is very combative, to say the least, right? And oftentimes the women that are on that particular show are in disagreement with thoughts like you and Shay just had, right? But they would then say that yes, the man should be on child support. So I'm just saying there's very few women that I've heard be in the same vein as you two, right? And then Shay even took it even further than what you were saying. She said, "No, every woman that get pregnant need to be having a DNA test, whether they're married or not, because now it would definitely hold women accountable, right?"
Absolutely.
I think it's accountability on both sides, right? So
women
accountable because the men have to be held accountable as well. You want them to pay and take care. That's the accountability on the opposite end. So it's a level playing field. It's like a seesaw. So both parties are being held accountable for the child, which if you're doing what's in the best interest of the child anyway, you won't have a problem. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So everybody can just move forward with the plan on how to do that as adults, and everybody take accountability for the role that they're playing in that child's life.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Dwayne, you finna say something?
Man, I don't know. That this is another one that had me feeling a certain way because DNA test, like, I don't know. There's something about King Rio was talking about resorts, right? And there's all inclusive, like everything's all included, and you only have to go venture out and all that. So, like, I think, like, I look at a relationship in that same way, and it's like we're talking about Maury, we're talking about the Jerry Springer show, and it's not the father, and it's like, man, like, that's a whole lot of drama. That's a whole lot of drama. Like, to have to interject with a DNA test, that's a whole lot of drama. Like, I don't know. Back to a couple weeks ago with the whole partner selection, like, if as a man, if you're getting around like that, that's suspect. As a woman, if you're getting around like that, that's suspect. Like, man, that's rough. That's rough. That's rough.
But it's a whole lot of drama, but it causes a whole lot of trauma if you don't know. And like Nee said, the men are heartbroken if they find out. the children are heartbroken. So it just creates this trauma or traumatic experience that people are to respond in that trauma, operate in that trauma, and it's just not a place of healing. Like, so you can't move like that. You just can't.
Yeah,
It's
but
too much at stake.
I'm wondering, like, as a society, right? Like, what are we doing to alleviate that? Like, I don't think we're doing much to alleviate that trauma and the drama. We're not. Like, I don't see many things that we're actively doing to alleviate those things. And that's the thing that frustrates me and bothers me, because I'll sit here and I'll say my parents separated. So like I was a child in the middle. One side, the other side, one had to pay child support. The other side had to figure out what they were going to do with the child support. I'm looking like, hey, I don't see what you're doing with the child support. So it's like I was in the middle of it. I was that child in the middle of it. So as for the drama and the trauma, I'd say I was going through it. But then again, it's like I don't see what we are doing as a society to try and alleviate that. Even as for the promiscuity of our of the young kids, right? Like we have all these other options, Plan B, abortions, and all these other things, but it's like none of them is like accountability and responsibility. Like
Nope.
ultimately, like so we have more of a push to push for abortions, like on demand.
Be
Right?
careful with that word
I
on
could care
Facebook.
less. My apologies. I could care less. But
I
it's
know,
like we
but
want
they'll do it before
Reproductive
they take
rights.
the fight down though.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
reproductive.
reproductive rights.
But it's like even saying it like that, it's like the child
Yep.
has no rights. It's like he ain't got no choice.
So Dwayne, when we think about that, right, we know that the system itself, court system, or whatever system we think about that would have to intervene in any of these types of situations is going to be catered toward women, right? So if we think about where our power lies in whether or not we're going to lie down with her at the end of the day. That's it. After that, we start to lose less and less control about how we are going to be able to operate once we have this tie, this connection to her. Because oftentimes I think child support is an emotional decision.
Mm.
It's, I don't like that you don't like me anymore. And so now I'm going to hurt you. You know what I mean? And I'm going to hurt you financially. Whether or not you're taking care of your kid or you intend to or not, I'm going to make this hard for you to leave me as a single parent. And even if you want shared custody, some of them make it so that it's hard for you to have split custody. We see these things. So, you know, us having this conversation right now and recognizing that we are vulnerable to these types of situations, I think we just have to be wise about who we, not just lay down with, but take that next step as far as, fertilizing, because we're at risk. So my best advice is be very careful about who you're willing to do that with.
Yeah. So I guess
Yeah.
that's what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just going to say I do agree with being careful, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it's to punish the other person. I think
Not all.
wholeheartedly, right, people know both sides who they are sleeping with, right? Like I had an inkling that my child's father would be a good father. Now, some people just don't know because they maybe was fake or faking the funk or whatever. But if they aren't initially taking that responsibility, it's like, okay, it's a means of protection for them to try to get something, So I do think that there are instances where it's like that means of we have to do something. I can't just do this alone. It does require financial support. It does require a second parent there. And maybe we're not in a situation where we can talk things out from adult perspective because there's a lot of tension there. So let's bring like a mediator or a third party into it. So I do think that there are situations where it is required to have a mediator or a third party because neither party is hearing each other, right? So what do you do in those instances when neither party is hearing each other, but you have a child who has needs that needs to be taken care of.
So I'm with you there, Shay. We were talking about there are some men and women who aren't taking responsibility for their children, and we know that we have to handle that one way or another, right? But I will tell you that as a man, there is a threat to breaking the family if things don't work out, whether it be with child support or whether it be the result of divorce, which can also result in some sort of financial burden or attack, so to speak. It's a threat, and men have to think twice because I think sometimes the system gets weaponized, so to speak, and you will be punished if, in fact, she's not okay emotionally or not in agreement with your desire to sever ties. And so men actually have to think about that in the back of their minds. And I will tell you, it's even a thought when it comes to marriage in general. Unless you are truly sure, you better be thinking about if this doesn't work out, what's going to be the consequences. And most of the time, the consequences that we think about are financial.
Yeah.
So just being honest from that standpoint.
Yeah,
From
yeah,
alimony to child support, or a combination of both,
Right.
depending on what your state's laws are pertaining to that.
Right. And then I think even they can get some of your retirement too, right?
Oh, Social Security, all that.
All it.
Hmm.
yeah. So I guess that's what has me salty about it, because it's like it's whether, like Nee was saying about the state has something to gain in the situation. If you have a salty mother in the situation, like, she can weaponize it, but in it puts the men at a severe disadvantage. And the way that I look at it is, in society, men has to be strong. If you desire to have a strong society, you have to have strong men.
Mm.
And in that regard, like, I see that the government comes in and they can weaken that standpoint. And I believe that women can be used in a vulnerable manner in order to say, hey, I got a fallback. I know you the baby daddy, but I have this government baby daddy over here who will make sure that you're able to pay up and supplement, like, me making it on my own. And I find that as a and that's why I look at it like, we are not coming up with solution. We're just continuing this insanity, and it's going on, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And the way that I look at what the Bible says about marriage, it says the man leaves and then cleaves to his wife. Baby ain't involved yet, right? And I think as for commitment and accountability and responsibility, there's a lot that goes hand in hand with all of that. And as for a deterioration to our society, I think it's by design. Honestly and truly, I believe it's by design, because the term, like, hurt people for these broken homes, right? And yeah, child support, these supplement, it creates resentment and animosity to the point where it's like, I could see how that can foster. And I saw it with my own household that I grew up in, with my moms, with my pops. I saw it myself. And I'll even be honest with y'all. Right now, my oldest daughter, she's 17. She's biologically not mine. She's been in my life since she was like 5 years old, right? So it's like, we don't ask for child support, because I know that would put that other person at a detriment. And the Lord has blessed us to the point where that's not even a part of it. We don't even want to bring the government in, because if they are not responsible enough to be accountable enough to and for their actions, it's like, we're going to ask the government to come in. The government don't have, whose best interest does the government have? That's the thing that I look at. It's
Their
not
own.
their own. So it's not for the child, it's not for the mother, it's for themselves. And at the end of the day, it's like they could care less what happens. That's how I look at it. So ultimately, I'm looking at what is the betterment for the child, the betterment for the family, because the bedrock and the foundation of America is the family. Period.
So this is my question too. I mean, and it may not even be a question, maybe more of a comment. When I think about how people connect, date, hook up, whatever it is that they're doing, I think oftentimes it's has a lot to do with your immediate sphere or people who are within proximity. So when we think about the portion of our community, maybe not even just Black communities, white communities, or wherever, who are living in, let's say, subsidized housing, ideally, if you were to hook up with somebody a few doors down, well, you both are in low income households, you both are disadvantaged, you both have struggles. What's the likelihood of him being able to provide, so to speak, on the level that would bring you out of this situation, unless he makes some major transition in his, you know what I mean, in his life, or vice versa, her as well. So I think what we're finding is oftentimes we see people who are already in, this impoverished state and mindset, who are, linking up with each other, and there's oftentimes it's very hard to elevate and come up out of that. And then I think that if things don't work out and probably struggle, because finances contribute to a lot of breakups and things like that, it leads us just right back to the courts. They almost control your life, so to speak, because you're stuck in that system, and I think that's something that we got to recognize, that we may be speaking in this YouTube space about a lot of things, but how do we change the outcome of what happens to people who are in those specific communities? Because it's a lot easier said than done for some people.
Yeah, because the challenge, like I understand what Dwayne is saying, and I understand what everybody else is saying as it relates to saying that child support should take place. However, it also gives the woman a way out for her not to be responsible for who it is that she sleeps with, right? But then also there is no paternity test, so then she could say whoever she wants to say did it if she's that type of woman, right? But then you have Dwayne that's saying, listen, if we go with no child support, then like that dude should and that woman, they should be responsible enough to come to a consensus of how to take care of the kid, and not because think about it, as the statement was stated, is that when the person is put on child support, that money goes to the government, right? There's a portion of that money that goes to the government. So therefore, by design, is that it makes more sense and I was telling this to one of my kids, I say it makes more sense for there to be single people than married people from a governmental standpoint, right? Because there are, the man has his bills and the woman has her bills, right? And so therefore, from a governmental standpoint, I'm getting money from two places, right? As opposed to one place, right? But for whatever reason, individuals don't really care about that because they choose to lean towards their sexual desire as opposed to what is the longevity of the decision that they're going to be making, right? Yeah. And so that is where we got to be teaching the people in our circles that will listen. The people in our circles that will listen, right? Women need to be talking to women. Men need to be talking to men about the decisions that they make. And so if somebody has a last point before we transition, I didn't know it was going to be this long, but that was, y'all did a wonderful job on that topic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll keep it. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'll keep it brief, but that's kind of what was rolling in my head when Dwayne was making his statement, is that at this point we're talking about how to control human behavior. And I don't know that there's a systemic solution for that, because who you pick, who you marry, who you procreate with, who you choose as a spouse, to deny the fact, to King Rio's point, that your surroundings, your environment in which you grow up with does, impacts your choice making. And how did your mother pick? How did your mother's mother pick? Who's teaching you to pick? Who's teaching young men to pick and value women above their sexuality, above what they can do for them carnally? What age are we teaching young boys how to pick a wife, how to lead a family, how to, be in charge? What age are we teaching young women how to carry a household, how to pick a husband, how to be a mother? Until we get those things together, then the government is kind of a gap stop for the breaks in our culture. The government is a stopgap for our failure to pass on the values that we kind of keep simultaneously trying to tear apart. Everybody is walking and living in their own truth. Well, if that truth is not grounded in anything but your feelings, then the truth becomes subjective. So how my truth is not your truth and your truth is not their truth. So what I'm teaching my daughter may not be what Shay's teaching her daughter, and may not be what King Rio's teaching his daughter, or HD is teaching his daughter. You know what I'm saying? And those experiences and what we believe, if everybody's truth is the truth, you know what I'm saying? Like that, we can go down a whole road of the moral decline and the deterioration of the moral fabric in our society that's leading to these poor decisions. Everything is sex. All these kids shows sex. Everybody's having sex. And it's so common, like blowing your nose, like picking up, there's people who have had sex with each other that don't even know each other's last name. You don't have nothing but an Instagram handle, and those people are making decisions that lead to human beings being born. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's
And this
real.
guy's like, I don't even know you to even know what kind of mother. I'm not ready to be a father. You know what I'm saying? And then you get people who are panicking, people who are not mature enough to make those decisions and stick with it, or have the moral fortitude that was instilled in them to stand up in the gap and be like, I'm going to handle the situation like a man. I'm going to deal with the consequences of my actions. We don't even breed a society that accepts consequences for our actions. If we don't like something, if something is hard, we move on to something else.
Cancel.
And that's what people are doing. So to Dwayne's point, the government is a stopgap. And until we address the moral decline in our society, it's going to be hard to find a solution to making better choices when it comes to procreation and finding responsible partners to bring children into the world in.
Yes, and to that, as for the moral piece, the government doesn't really too much facilitate morals, but they do educate. They do incentivize education, whether the public schools, if they're funding these public schools, they are disseminating the type of education that they would like to then permeate throughout the culture. So this came across my attention a couple of years ago, and it said, and to King Rio's point about poverty, it said there's 3 things to do if you would like to stay above the poverty line. It's stay in school, don't have children out of wedlock, and get a full-time job. You do those 3 things, you will stay above the poverty line. So just those simple things, right? So I don't see those things that are being taught in our culture. I really don't. So with that, especially that don't have a child out of wedlock, no, it's sex. It's instant gratification. I'm a millennial. That's all. We get our food
I'm a millennial as well.
instantly. We get our packages delivered same day. We get our groceries delivered to us. All these things, instant gratification. There's not anything about the discipline of good things come to those who wait.
Yeah, man. I think, and I don't want to drag this on, HD, but man, Dwayne, and when you talk about that poverty line, I think the goal should be to be well above it. Because when I
Absolutely.
hear the poverty line, and then I even hear, morality talked about in certain things, in poverty-stricken communities, there's something that takes place, and this came to mind to me: the food stamp thing, right? And we all know what takes place with that. There are people who are in poverty, choose not to work or whatever it is that they do, and have several kids sometimes, and they get enough food stamps to feed a village. I mean, they eat quite well. And then they make money off of the food stamps because there's somebody who's slightly above that poverty line who struggles just to buy basic groceries. And when there's an opportunity to buy food stamps, they buy those food stamps. And the person who's selling food stamps says, I'm going to say right here on these food stamps because I'm eating better than you. Then I make some money to share with you. Just so that you might have a little more food.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a real listen. So not to get too much in policy and everything, but also on the other side of that, I think sometimes we hear certain things in the music that's said in a very vulgar way, and I won't bother with any of these lyrics. But what I will say is, I think us as men, if I was just to speak to men, we cannot afford to have unprotected sex out of wedlock unless we are financially well off. And even then, you probably shouldn't do it. But you know what I'm saying? Even then, you probably shouldn't do it. But at the same token, if you know this is your predicament, man, you're in a world of trouble if things go. If she gets pregnant, you didn't really like her like that. You just happen to like her. Sometimes we just like having sex with you. Sometimes it's just what it is. It's just to be frank. You know what I mean? And then you get comfortable having unprotected sex. Next thing you know, here this baby come along. Now you got a baby with somebody you don't really quite like that. You know what I'm saying?
Lost in the sauce, as the young people say.
And then domino effect. So we gotta see these things coming. We have to date with intention. We have to have a plan. Ultimately, when we come out of high school, how we're not just going to survive, but how we might be well off, right? And then at that point, I think that's when we should be ready to date with intention. I think we're in a phase now to where that word provider is a common topic, and we can't be that unless we can not only just support ourselves, but can we afford to support a family?
Yes.
That's what I got.
Listen, I realize that this topic started off about child support. Right?
Hey, it all ties in.
It ties in.
Y'all did a wonderful job of transition, is what I'm saying.
Pay the
Right?
pipe.
You did a wonderful job of transition. Right. I want to go back to, I can't remember what Dwayne was saying. Right. But I wanted to ask that he was talking about men being leaders, I think something like that in the household, something like that. And so I wanted to ask this question or make this statement. I would say or ask, fathers have the most challenging role. Agree or disagree? Fathers have the most challenging role. Agree or disagree, and why?
In parenting?
That's the only that you can't be you can't be a father if you're not,
Right.
father or dad. You know what I'm saying?
Disagree.
Explain.
I disagree because in most households, the fathers work to provide, and that's about it. They may have involvement with the children in terms of like activities and things like that, but when you're thinking about households of today where the woman is also working as well and still have to manage the household and the children, I think it's more challenging than the role of a father, and when it comes to parenting. So that's my 2 cents.
I think that fathers have the more challenging role in certain dynamics. I think fathers can have a more challenging role when it comes to being providers. The weight on them to carry that and shoulder that burden for their family. I think that sometimes we can minimize what that's like, especially for Black men in our society. So I think that can be challenging from that aspect, the aspect of being a provider, the aspect of everyone looking to you if you're in that dynamic, to kind of be the backbone and leader of that family, to what Dwayne was saying earlier. I think that fathers have a challenging role if they have procreated with challenging baby mothers. I think that there are a lot of children who are weaponized against men. I think the court system, since we were talking about child support earlier, I think it disproportionately favors women. I think there's that's where men have the burden to prove their worth and their value as a parent. Fathers have to prove that they're good fathers, and it's kind of assumed that mothers are good mothers. Um, and so I think fathers can have a more challenging role when it comes to situations like that. I do agree with Shay also, though, that usually in the two parent home and a you know normal traditional, I'll say a traditional family style, mothers probably do pick up a little bit more of the brunt. I know that I do, speaking from a personal standpoint. My husband's a great provider, but I am the end all be all. I am the knower of all things. It's my responsibility to organize everybody's schedule, make sure nothing is dropped. I'm usually up before everybody. I'm usually down after everybody. Um, and that's a personal point of pride for me. Don't get it twisted. I get tired. I get exhausted when I need everybody to kind of step it up. I will throw a fit to get what I need, but um I think in that regard, it shifts. But I will not take away the challenge it is for a man in a traditional family structure. The challenge of being a provider and being the leader, and everyone looking to you to shoulder that burden. So I just think it's subjective, depending on the scenario that father is in, whether his role is more challenging than a woman's.
Yeah, I find that's interesting. Um, I can jive with that. I'll say my wife, she puts in work. Okay, yeah, and I have mad respect for her because some of the things she does, sometimes I just think I'm not capable of doing. The patience that she has, I'm not capable of having. Okay, so with that, I thank the Lord God that He has designed her different than me, and I think that's the uniqueness of and the greatness of marriage, because men and women are completely different. As much as the society want to say that we're equal and all this, yeah, we're equal in the sight of God. um, we're both made in the image of God, but we are made distinctively different. And I think about where it says in the Bible, it says in Ephesians, men, love your wife, respect your husband. That order is interesting because it's what comes, not what does not come naturally. So for men to love, that's not something that comes naturally. For women to respect, that's not something that comes naturally. Y'all don't operate off respect. Men operate off respect. Women, y'all operate off of love. Men don't operate off love. We don't tell our homeboy. Well, I mean, now as I get older, I'll be like, hey, I'll tell my homeboy, hey, I love you, right? But that's a
But
level.
I don't think you ever said that to me, bro.
We
I
working
don't
on.
know,
We
I don't
working
know
on.
how true that
We
statement.
working on it. We
Maybe
working.
I'm not in your homeboy club.
Hey, you're a little salty right now. Okay, we're a little salty right now. Sprinkle a little sugar on. No, but real talk, like even as for that, I've noticed like over time, like growing up, we didn't tell, as for guys, we didn't tell each other we loved each other like that. So that took maturity and growth. But as for the respect piece, we operate off respect. So whenever it does come down to disciplining, it's I'll ask y'all, ladies, is it easy for y'all to discipline, or does that come second nature?
It's second nature to me. It's not easy for me to discipline. It's not. I don't like it, but I
I
do it.
think for oh, I'm sorry, Shay, let me cut you off.
Now, my son's father, he's always giving me pep talks about bring that belt out. Like, you put your foot down. Like, he's always giving me these pep talks. And he's like, don't be afraid. Like, Vinny got a spanking this weekend. And he had it in a long time. And his dad was like, call me on videos so I can see. Like, what? Like, he's like, don't be afraid to do this. So afterwards, he
Doing it
he
wrong.
talked like, listen, I know you don't like to do it, but sometimes he said you talk to him enough. He knows, like, you have to put your foot down. Like, and I know how you feel, but just know you doing the right thing. He'll be okay. He's crying for a second, like, so he's always giving me those little pep talks because I don't like it. I'm like, just do what I say. Why do we have to go here? Like, I don't even want to go there with you, So, yeah, he gives me pep talks all the time about keep your foot down, put your foot down. Like, no, this is not happening. He can't do that or whatever.
What about you, Nee?
I do not struggle with discipline. I don't struggle. I'm the disciplinarian. My husband he's the softie. They go to dad for everything, especially them girls. So I will say it is a little bit different. It takes me a while. I'm not even gonna lie, I give my son a little more grace. Because he's my baby, he's the youngest. I give him more grace than I get a girl. I'm hard on the girls. They can't get away with nothing. But they'll go to my husband, Daddy, mommy said we can't. And sometimes, most of the time he be like, well, if your mama said no, can't help you. I'm kind of the stickler for that. But with my son, I will be like, you know what, you gonna keep it up and I'm gonna call your dad. And then he like, no. So but my husband, everybody know I'm the mean one. If you want something, go ask your dad first. And then what he'll do is pull trump card, be like, well, what your mama say? And they be like, oh, so, I don't struggle with it in the same way, but I will say that I am softer on my son than I am on my girl.
And I feel like the dads don't have to do much. They just say it, and then
They got dad
listen.
base. I call it the man base. It's different. It's different.
Yeah. And then Video be like, why are you whining? I'm like, I'm not whining. I'm tired of talking to you about this. He's like, yeah, but your voice is kind of whiny. I'm like, think that's why I don't.
I feel it. And I thought,
wait a minute, your son told you had a whiny voice?
Yes, he did. He is like, why are you whining? Like, your voice sounds whiny. And I'm just like, I'm just fed up with you. Like,
I probably would have did something right there at his throat.
Sweep the legs. Sweep the legs.
Yeah. I saw about this weekend, though. I was proud of myself.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's interesting because I think that to go along with that, me being in the position of being a single father now, like I can see that how different I am as it relates to parenting, as opposed to when Jen was here. I was the person with the tone, and I didn't have to give as many disciplinary actions, right? Because I had that. And what's crazy is my kids thought that I was yelling at them, right? And I'm like, I don't. That's not even my MO is to yell. And then now I do more speeches, right? And Kendra's like, hey, listen, you're gonna have to put some bass in your voice. Because like you just talking to him ain't working. Like I've been having issues all this week in my parenting session, right? and then when I got to the point of putting the bass in my voice, depending on who it is, like the 4-year-old, she don't care. You know what I'm saying? She just
Them toddlers built different. They don't give a damn about nothing.
Yeah. Dwayne's son and my daughter, they came from a different life, and they've been here before, and they was like, listen, we already know how this play out. Like they boss baby, you know what I'm saying? They act like that, right? And so that's why I had to go off just a few moments ago. I had to go take care of her because she won't go to sleep, right? So that's what, even in the base, it don't matter. Hands-on approach don't matter. You know what I mean? So that's the thing I'm trying to figure out. You know what I'm saying? So as it relates to the question, I think that every parent has a challenging role because that's their role, right? If you operate in your role, it's going to be challenging. And then absolutely, if you operate outside of your role, it's going to be majorly difficult. That's why I can see why it's very much of a challenge to be a single parent, because you're operating in two roles and you're only designed to have one. Okay. And so, and I'm seeing that and trying to fix it. Right. And that's the challenge that I have. That was the reason why I'm asking the question, not to say that I'm saying that fathers have it more of a challenge. Go ahead, King. Go ahead.
So I got a question for you, humble dad. Is there a part of you,
It's Dr. HD. Just, you know what I'm saying? King Rio.
HD?
I'm just gonna just check everybody right now. I got a graduation coming, King Rio. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna be a little sedity for at least about 30 days. Okay. I'm just
That man say, put
You
some
earned that.
respect
You
on
earned
his
that.
title.
He earned that. Though.
King, no, I should be messing with him. Go ahead, King.
He earned that. So my question with that is, and I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, because I guess in the same way you're dealing with that, they too are dealing with that. So do you have to have a certain amount of grace when you are disciplining? Maybe that's the reason why you've adapted. You know what I mean?
Yes. Such a dope question. Such a dope question. So with them losing their mom, the challenge for me was like trying to be sensitive enough to the situation, but not get out of hand of lackluster. But I did get out. I thought that I was being strict enough, but what ends up happening is that I was in my phase of grieving and I wasn't disciplined, right? And so they got away with a lot of stuff, and trying to reel back in the power that I once had has been the challenge, right? And um because I'm trying to work and I'm also trying to, also be be what Jen was, that right there has my mind kind of like, okay, how do I handle them but make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. So yes, that has definitely been the situation where I've been soft, right, in tone, as well as how I discipline. I was trying to give them too many opportunities to get it right when I should just did what I typically do, which is what you know I give them that the belt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's so now I'm coming back to that, and they're transitioning back to that. They don't want that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's working out a little bit for me. So that's a really good question, though.
I, I do want to chime in on that one because whenever you brought that up, that reminded me, like like whenever someone goes blind, like their other senses amplify. Like I broke my right wrist in like my 7th grade year. I still want to play basketball, so I learned to shoot with my left. And it's like the ability for you to adapt whenever you are put in a situation, like forced into a situation, like you are able to do more than you ever thought that you were able to do. So I think that's the dynamicness of being able to, if you desire to be better, you're able to adapt to your situation.
It's
So
a bit. I'm gonna transition. This is to the next question because I like to honor people's time all the time. You know what I'm saying? So the next topic is in relation to, let me see what I had. It was about close to, let's see how much time we got, because y'all long winded. You know what I'm saying? Y'all like some Southern Baptist, evangelistic, Pentecostal type individuals is what I'm saying. Okay. You know, so yeah, absolutely. All right. So this is what I'm gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna read this statement and then I'm kind of also ask the question. Right. So here's the first statement. Okay. Let me get this one off. Okay. Here's the first statement. A woman can make an average man great and a great man average. Okay. A woman can make an average man great and a great man average. I want you to process that. And then it's going to be a follow-up question, which will be, how can a woman make a father better? Okay. So we're going to start with this one first. When you hear it, what comes to mind? A woman can make an average man great and a great man average. Oh, so
Um,
now nobody don't want to talk.
I no, I don't mind. I think that's true. If a man is receiving that woman into his space, then she has influence. She has power. Um, we have a lot of power in our words and what we speak, and we have the power to speak life into people, and we also have the power to speak in the negative. And so, um, there's a saying that says, your the quality of your life is greatly impacted by who you marry, who you take into your space. So if you take in the right person, then a woman is designed to amplify. Like, a lot of people say, you give a woman a seed, she gives you a baby. You give her a house, she makes it a home. So that's speaking to our ability to take what a man gives us and magnify it. So take what he gives us himself and magnify him, catch his vision, and help him bring it to fruition. But in that same breath, Dwayne likes to lean to the word a lot, so I'll go that direction. A scornful woman, a bitter woman, a woman who is a nagger, a woman who cannot you know be mindful of her mouth, be mindful of how she carries herself, who does not speak in wisdom, can also tear a man down. So I absolutely believe in that statement.
One of the first things I think about is, what does she come with? And does she come with something, or is she an empty cup? Right? When you gave the example earlier, Nate, about how your household operates, right? You're everybody's scheduler, you're the planner. You have a lot of roles, not just to the children, but to your husband, to your household, period. So imagine if your husband was to marry a woman who only had one thing to offer and didn't have all of these skills, right? I mean, only you essentially would know the difference in how
Mm,
he would go out and perform in the world without what you bring to the table at the home base,
absolutely.
so to speak. So he could be going out here and doing great things with you right here behind him.
Hmm.
Had it been a woman who has not, let's say she's just pretty or something, you know what I'm saying? And that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, at that point, what he's able to do and how he's able to function, even how he's able to pour into his household, because ultimately you need somebody who can multiply whatever it is that you pour in. She can't do that. Essentially, my family is a reflection of me. And if we are operating average or barely making it, you know what I mean, with the resources that I bring, because it's just me that the entire unit can depend on for everything, then in my opinion, I just became average. You know what I mean? I just became average. I may be doing above average things. However, the product of what I'm essentially pouring in, I don't have much to show for it. Because at that point, she is just almost, and these this word child gets thrown out a lot in this YouTube space, but if you don't have anything more to offer than the children do, then I'm taking care of and raising and organizing and planning, and sometimes, like we talk about, other senses kicking in. If she's not good with the babies, then I gotta become the nurturer. You know what I'm saying? He then becomes spread so thin. How can he go out and operate in power when he's completely drained? You came with an empty cup. And he's got to
Absolutely.
empty all of his. So I think this statement is absolutely accurate when we are to put it into context, or at least in the context that I chose.
So helpmate or help me. It's like a it it's it, if they're not going to help you, and it's like, help you for what? And there could be a variety of things. And I think whenever we are actively seeking a mate, that's where we are looking for what they have that you don't have, that could make the unit better. And looking at that, it's like you want to see, whenever you come together as one, how strong y'all can be together. So I look at the, as for to the question, whenever an a woman can make a man, a great man, weaker in the sense, I look at the Samson scenario and Delilah. It's like, man, right? You got all the strength, but that woman then took it from you. And I think it's something that you allow because that's who you chose. And as for the mate selection, we keep going back to that. It's like you desire to find someone who's going to make you better. That goes for the women, that goes for the man. So like I could, well, I'll hold off on that because that's the second question. But yes, I look at the situation as in, you desire to find someone who is actively going to make you an overall better person, and you're not. It's not somebody who's going to take from you. It's someone who's going to add to you. And I'm not just talking about just from a selfish standpoint. I'm talking about from a mutual standpoint.
That's good. No, I'm sitting here, y'all, and I was taking it all in because everything everyone said was spot on. And it just had me thinking about my own relationship and how I am and the things that I do. So I was self-reflecting here. So I don't have too much to add because I was taking it in.
That's dope. I think self reflection is beneficial for everybody. That's dope. So I'm gonna transition to the question then. The main question of the day is then, how can a woman make a father better, father or dad? What are those essentials that you would describe if we're saying that yes, a woman can make an average man great? Then if I substitute it with just how to make a father better, what is that? What would that look like from your perspective or any perspective?
I think someone mentioned this earlier about the words that we speak, their spirit and their life. So they have the power to sway, encourage, or talk down, either or. So I think a matter of speaking and truly encouraging him in those things where he may not even be as confident in, or encouraging him in that role of leadership that he is in, respecting him in his decision making, even if it's not something you would typically do. I know my son's father and I, we have two different parenting styles, and I think that's what allows us to both operate and be great co-parents, is because I allow him to be him. I don't try to say what he should or shouldn't be doing. I don't try to manage how he parents our son. I allow him to operate how he is. I mean, that's his style, and I respect that. And then I respect it in my actions when we're talking to our son, in front of him, even when his father is not around. It allows him to be better when, our son is probably bringing something to me, and I'm like, well, what'd your dad say? He's like, well, my dad ain't gonna do it. Okay, well, why are you asking me? Like, if you know your father's not gonna do it, why are you asking me? And so sometimes that can be difficult for parents when they are in separate households to be able to have that support, because one parent does things one way and the other parent does it the other way. So I think just that, encouraging, respecting those decisions in front of them and behind closed doors gives them that opportunity to continue to be better and respected in that role.
I think there are extra set of eyes and ears, because I do think that sometimes there are things that we overlook, or things that simply go over our heads. I think that mothers can be very attentive, and they can be very inquisitive when it comes to their children and the social lives of their children. You know, even sometimes when it comes to some of the littlest things, like I may take my son to school. Um, however, I can't say that I'm interacting with the soccer moms, or that me and the teacher has such a great rapport, because there's just some things that women just do well with other women. You know what I mean? And so there's things that she can relay to me that I wouldn't have picked up on or found out about, and then sometimes they're able to, help the children develop friendships and bonds, and because other mothers invite them to birthday parties and various things like that. They can tell us, okay, such and such made a new friend. His name is John, you know what I mean, or whatever. And then that'll be a conversation piece that we might be able to bring up because, our other half, so to speak, has made us aware of some of the things that are going on that we're not necessarily inclined to be so attentive to. I will even say that sometimes, they're able to express to us when we need to maybe spend a little bit more time. You know, hey, your son's been acting out. I think he needs a little bit more of your attention. You know what I mean? Or maybe there's questions that the mom is being asked that may be best addressed by a father. You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's really important to be able to work as a team, because we can ultimately make each other better. And so to think that a woman can't make you a better father, I think is extremely naive. She absolutely can, but you have to think of her as your teammate.
That is true. And you know what's so funny? My son's father, he would tell our son, "You don't need no friends. Who cares about friends?" Like he always used to say that. And I remember having a conversation with him saying, "Vincent, Vinny has to have at least one friend in school. Like this is his early on, because he is very active and he is very hyper, and he just needed that one friend. This is like first, second grade." I said it's very important that he has at least one friend at school. He doesn't need a lot of friends. He just needs that one friend. And when he has that one friend, he's ready to take on the school year, right? So he was like, whatever at first. Like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But as time went on, he's like, you know what? He stopped saying it. Like, you don't need no friend. Who care about friends? He stopped telling him that when he found out, oh, he got his one friend, and now he's talking about this one friend all the time. Now he wants to go to school. Now he's excited about going to school. And so each year I would tell him, okay, let's pray that Vinny find one friend at school. Because for some reason his friends would leave and only be there that 1 year. So we would have to start over and find another friend. So then we would come together and be like, okay, but did you make a friend? Did you find a friend, at school? Now he's like, everyone knows him now. So we don't have that issue. But early on, he definitely was that parent that was like, he don't need no friends. Friends gonna cross you over. They gonna backstab. I'm like, he's in first grade. Like, why are we
I
talking
mean, when other than the present time to learn that though?
Right.
backstabbing? First grade? Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Have you been in
It gets real in
the
pre-K.
classroom? Kids are vicious in elementary school, man. Like they will be your friend today and not tomorrow.
They do get on that in elementary school for sure. I think that a woman makes a father better by allowing him to parent. I want to go to something Dwayne said earlier. Respect. I think one of the greatest things you can do for a man that's a father is let the children see you showing him respect. Let the children see you coming up under his leadership. because it sets the tone for everything else. And that automatically will amplify him and elevate him as the head within the household. If they see mom falling in line, just like they're supposed to fall in line, and there's a visual example, that will automatically amplify his status as the father. Okay, there's a chain of command, there's a line of respect. Men thrive on respect. So I asked my husband this, like, in our dating. I was like, love or respect? And he said respect first and then love second. And not because that one is more important, but men, to Dwayne's point, everything they do is about respect. So if I can show my children that I respect the father of the household, then they inherently follow my lead, which makes his job as as a father easier to do because there's a chain of command. I think, piggybacking on what some of the other panelists have said, showing support, showing encouragement, allowing him to lead, allowing him to embrace his role, not undermining his parental authority in front of the children. I think being on one accord. There's sometimes I don't agree with a decision my husband has made concerning their children, or not letting them have something, or letting them do something. More is the case than anything. But I will pull him to the side, especially if it's something serious. Now we'll joke, and I'll be like, "I said they couldn't have them chips," and he'd be like, "They can have them chips," and that's fine. But on more serious, topics, then that's a conversation we have in private. Again, the respect. Okay, help me understand why you made that decision as a father, because I'm struggling with it. So let me understand where you came from with that decision and that perspective. And then in me gaining understanding, then I can either A, agree, or B, not agree. And can we come to some type of compromise that works for both of us when it comes to parenting our children? And then sometimes it's just I have to take a step back. But I think that we make men better fathers by allowing them the freedom to be fathers, allowing them to parent their children in a way that sees fit. If you've done your due diligence in selecting the father of your child, then y'all shouldn't be on two totally different wavelengths when it comes to your children. And just showing that, setting that tempo of respect in the family, and allowing his position as a father to be easier.
Yeah, that's good. So Tony Evans has a thing talking about whenever you have a father behaving like the mother, or the mother behaving like a father, and he calls that whenever you're out of alignment. So it's like your car, whenever the tires are out of alignment, it can drive, but for how long? Until you get wear on that tire, or on the tires. So I appreciate my wife, and the fact that sometimes she allows me to parent my children, her children, in the way that I see is best at that time. And then I also then allow her to parent our children in the way that she feels best at that time. And it becomes a struggle. I will say it didn't come over, just like that. It took time, because there were times where we would get into it, because it's like, hey, once I'm to this point, it's like, they know you can't save them. Like, they mine. Like, you can't save them. So, but then that's something I have to work on as well, where I allow her to then show them grace, to show them mercy. And then in turn, she has taught me, like, hey, you don't have to always resort to that. You can give them grace, and you can show them mercy as well. And I see, like, as for effectively disciplining them, and I also learned this from HD as well, like finding different avenues in how to discipline. So, like, my thing, discipline. Her thing, nurture, care for, she'll do the talking. I'm disciplined. Like, hey, I got that follow through on that belt. I'm like, what is that? Pootie Tang with the belt? Ship. Zorro too. I'm telling you. But then that's not her. That's not her role. Like Shay was saying earlier, like I'll give her a pep talk. Hey, baby, come on, you gotta get in there. You go ahead, yeah, just follow through. Maybe it'll be good. So I'll give her the pep talk as well. But then it's like that's not primarily her role. Nurturing is not primarily my role. But then being able to cross train. How about that? Being able to cross train a little bit and able to make each other better. I see that she's able to then pour into me, which then I can. As for the softness, the loving, the nurturing, and then I can be like, all right, this is difficult. This is, man. Hey, listen, like y'all are catching a break right now because I'm trying something new. And with that, I believe I allow my children to be better as well because they get a different angle, they get a different view, and that dynamicness allows them to grow. And that's ultimately the goal is to extract the most productivity out of our children together. And I see how she's able to pour into me so that I can achieve that goal, and I appreciate it.
That's phenomenal. King, have you been able to go yet?
I have been able to go, but one thing I want to acknowledge, Nate said, and that Dwayne kind of touched on a little bit was, I think sometimes we see issues with our children differently than their mothers do. Like Nate, the thing about the chips, I'm guilty of that. Or what's the snack? I don't see the big deal. Like, what is the problem? I'm like that. I'm guilty. I'm gonna be honest with you. Now,
Bro, I just gave my daughter
snack,
candy before we ate at the fair. Bro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't understand that really. But y'all do, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's why I realized that there is a need for that balance. You know what I mean? Dwayne needs his wife to understand when he's in disciplinarian mode, that is the time to stand back. Now we can discuss it later, but I need to operate in my role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. And I also say, just thinking about what our triggers are, when it comes to the respect thing, I think they mentioned about respect. We really need respect. I think that's the reason why it triggers us when a kid talks back, stomps off, slams the door. It may even have us start to say some choice words that we wouldn't usually say because we feel completely this such and such just woo, and we will get on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So just understanding that we have these different triggers, and how it's important for us as parents, mothers and fathers, to understand each other and support each other. Really important.
So that's what that is. Okay, I'm glad you said that because Vinny and his dad's always scoring on each other, right? And so one day Vinny went in and his daddy was up. He was upset.
When scoring goes too far.
Oh,
when keeping it real goes wrong. And you get the punches put on you by dad.
And so his dad was mad. He was talking to him about it, like, don't you ever say that again. Like he was going in, right? After I took Vinny to choir rehearsal at church, after church, he called and was like, you better not ever. Like he was still on it. And so Vinny was like, he was so confused. He's like, well, Dad, you always talking about me. So I told Vinny, I was like, maybe you hurt his feelings because I didn't understand.
It was the disrespect. He felt disrespected. It went too far. It went too far. It was the disrespect.
It was the disrespect because that's what I was like. Wow, I think you hurt his feelings because afterwards, his dad talked to him and he was done. He was just like, "You better not ever." And then before
we ain't doing the jokes no more. Jokes over.
Before bedtime, he brought it back up when he called him. It was like, "Listen, you don't do that. Like you don't talk about stuff like that." So, I was trying to make sense of it with him. And I was telling Vinny, I said, you probably hurt Dad's feelings, but now I see it was he disrespected him and he felt disrespected because I thought it was a feelings thing. Like
because we're women, so we go to the emotional. Oh, you hurt his feelings. No, that man felt disrespected. He felt his manhood being challenged, and he was ready to square up with your son. Because now you a man. Now I'm looking at you like a man. Now I gotta handle you like a man.
Yeah, because it flipped real fast. I didn't say nothing though. I was just driving.
That's the low level threat of violence that people call toxic masculinity. That's another topic.
Working as designed.
That's what's up. This has been phenomenal conversation. I hope you all have appreciated it as well. Maybe learn something from it to take to your local neighborhood, known as your household, and in your work environment as well. I gotta go take care of one of my children. You know what I'm saying, and see what the deal is. Oh, I listen. I know I do.
You don't need a pep talk.
No, I don't. Not no more. I don't need one at all. That's a fact. I really appreciate y'all, man. This has been dope. I'm having some. See if y'all want to come back next week. I know King Rio. He be busy just like everybody else. So, but this has been a really good conversation. I think next week I'm gonna talk about like if a dad doesn't have anything in common with the child, how do they connect? Mm-hmm. I think I'm gonna be talking about that next week. All right. Matter of fact, just let everybody know King Rio is on Instagram, also on King Talk. Go to his Instagram. You know what I'm saying? He takes mad dope pictures. You know what I'm saying? Can I say that word? Mad dope? Well, I just did. Right?
I appreciate that, brother.
Absolutely. And then Dwayne, he's a photographer, but he don't want nobody to know it. You know what I'm saying? So he's anti-social media. Okay. You know what I'm saying? But you can always catch him here. He won't give out anything of information. Nee, where can they catch you at? Okay.
I'm regular.
Okay.
Regular. I'm just here to have a wonderful conversation with the people that want to converse about awesome things.
Absolutely. No problem. Then Shay, where can they find you on Instagram? I know you be on Facebook. Where you want them to find you at the most though?
Instagram or Facebook. Shay McNuckles.
Yeah, get your taxes done. Do you do it worldwide or just in certain regions?
I do them nationwide, and we're in income tax training season. So if you want to learn how, or if you know anyone who wants to learn how, let us know.
That's a bet. And of course, you can catch me here on Humble Dad Podcast and over there on King Talk. And if you need to pick up something for your dads out there, go to humbledad.life. All right. And until next time, we out here. Deuces.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
What a phenomenal show. Shout out to my guests. I appreciate everything that they brought to the table. Hey, the cup was full. They poured it out a little bit, and then we poured some into each other. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. We out here. Deuces.